Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Slayer. I just wanted to mention before we get into this interview with Andy talking about Russia, China, the eradication of the dollar, and more, wanted to share some deals I have since it's getting closer to the holidays and your window for ordering to receive your package before Christmas is running out. We have 1 ounce Eagles, only $4.99 over spot, no minimum. Also, junk silver, $3 over spot, and 10th ounce gold maples as well, 5 coin minimum for only $30 over melt. Simply email slayer@milesfranklin.com and I will get you hooked up in your order placed and on the way. I love you guys. Now let's jump into the video.
Now, one thing that I wanted to chat about, because I might have mentioned that this happened last week, but what's interesting is that Putin, who hasn't left Russia but twice in 2 years because there's a bounty on his head from the West, flew to on in an unannounced and impromptu meeting, flew to the United Arab Emirates just the other day, flanked by 4 Russian fighter jets, and had a meeting with United Arab Emirates, unannounced, unprecedented. Unannounced and impromptu, and really we don't know much about it. Is it coincidence that right after he tells the world, or Dubai tells the world, United Arab Emirates, we're not going to take dollars anymore? Is there a coincidence that Putin makes a impromptu meeting to the UAE and then goes directly from there to Saudi Arabia? Now, is this a coincidence? Don't know. You remember what happened to the last couple of guys that tried to move away from the dollar, taking oil with Saddam Hussein and Muammar Gaddafi. There was a little bit of a regime change going on there, but that's what this whole BRICS coalition represents.
Right.
It represents a pushback against really the 500-year Western dominance.
Yep.
Not just the United States. Before that, you had plenty of countries in Europe that ruled the roost: the United Kingdom and Spain and the Dutch, and all of these countries and cultures have really ruled the world for the better part of 5 centuries. And all of the other countries now that are joining together, including the 20 other that have formally applied and the 40 who have expressed interest, are becoming rather formidable. And to see Putin leave for only maybe the second time in a few years, to fly right after these announcements were made, I find to be very interesting. And it goes along with that logarithmic decay idea that I talk about. Little by little by little by little by little, we are chopping away at the dollar hegemony. And you can see that they are becoming real. So I just wanted to mention that as we jump into things, that my central thesis will not change, and I will be boring, and I will talk about a progression of events that I have been for 4 years, starting with gold's reclassification as tier one, and everything that's happened since. And I will tell you, in my mind, none of these things are coincidental. So as we talk about things around the periphery, the price of gold and silver, the other geopolitical events, or what's happening here at home, to me, it all is part of the same progression of events. And I want to keep our eye on the ball as we talk through 2024 about this de-dollarization trend, because it is the petrodollar status, the world reserve status, that has given us this exorbitant privilege, one that we should be clinging to as a country, that we are doing everything in our power to lose. So I just wanted to mention that as we kick things off, because is it coincidence that Putin flew there flanked by 4 fighter jets unannounced, or is it not? And that's what I really wanted to start today with. But other than that, yeah, let's kick it off. Let's talk, man.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. A lot of people don't see the bigger picture. I think all these oil-rich countries, why in the world would they want us to go green? So
well, they wouldn't
I
want us to go green, and that's just it. We're antagonizing them. And when you look at that's the to cling to the world reserve status, people need to understand that part of the deal not only was to value oil in dollars globally for the protection of the Saudi kingdom, but also to take the proceeds of those dollars and reinvest them in treasuries. And how's that been going for the last few years? But, when we signed an executive order to go green, this dovetails with Jared Bernstein's thesis, who's the lead economic advisor to the U.S. government, whose whole thesis is that the reserve currency status is a privilege we can no longer afford. The distortions that it creates, the trade imbalances it creates, is something we cannot afford. And so, look, these countries are saying, geez, are we next? by weaponizing the dollar, by coercion and sanctioning and confiscating the assets of two of the BRICS members, Iran and Russia. You have all of these countries are saying, geez, are we next? And this is where the safety in numbers is being found. And the second piece of the puzzle is, why the hell would we tell the world that we're going green if it is the petrodollar status that gives us the dollar hegemony, that gives us the world reserve status, unless it was something we wanted to lose. So by
Yeah.
weaponizing the dollar and by going green, I think we are moving down a path. And you can think logically. I mean, it doesn't make sense if you wanted to cling to the status of being world reserve, weaponize the dollar and then tell the world we're going green would be about the two biggest steps you could make to
Yeah.
lose that status. Well, that dovetails exactly to what the lead economic advisor to the White House is looking for. And it's not a good thing. It really isn't. And then when you look at it from their standpoint, why would they be going green? Well, they're a bunch of idiots, and that's what
Yeah.
they're saying about us. And then they look at it, well, geez,
Yeah.
the dollar is inflating 7 to 10% per year. I don't care what the CPI says. Go to John
Yeah.
Williams of Shadow Stats and look at what his numbers are. And he'll tell you 7 to 10% at least in inflation. So the dollar is losing that and then reinvesting into the treasury market. 10-year treasuries got its butt kicked unlike anything that the bond market's ever experienced, ever in the last few years. So they're getting crushed in bonds, they're losing money to inflation, and they're being protected by a country that is doing things through coercion, and they're signed protection agreements that with countries that have as big nuclear arsenals as the West does. You can see the whole thing coming together,
Yeah.
and it isn't a positive development for the West, period. So I think it's important to talk about these things that every week seem to be adding to this
Yeah.
progression of
It
events.
it
And that's why I
is.
wanted to kick it off that way, because to me,
Every
everything else around it is a byproduct of
it's
potentially losing the dollar's reserve
yeah.
status.
Yeah. Every week we do the show, and every week something new happens that is
That's the
just
point.
confirming. Yeah. It's
And then
crazy.
at the
Like you
same time, after all of this happens, the Russia and Saudi Arabia and the rest of OPEC came out and said, we're going to cut 2.2 million barrels of oil per day. So, they're not helping the West, certainly, in terms of oil prices or the price of gasoline, especially heading into election. You'd think it would go the other way. At the same time, Biden has drained our strategic stockpile of oil to a level that, I don't know if it's ever
yeah.
been this low. So all of these things are adding up. And it's like,
Yeah.
at what point does it become coincidence? What point does it become reality? Or what point does it become just too stupid to be stupid? I don't know. I think that we're at this point right now where if you just take a step back and look at these progression of events that are accelerating, yeah, and you got 20 other countries that have formally applied. So what is 11 countries next year could become 32, but there's 20 others that have informally expressed interest.
Yeah. That's
So
the
32
other.
becomes 52. At what
Yeah.
point does it become the Belt Road Initiative, which right now
That's
has
what.
150 plus countries and
Yeah.
75%
There's.
of human population in and of itself? At what point do all of these countries say we're with the BRICS?
Yeah.
And it's a lot harder for these countries independently to stand up to the West, like Iraq did and like Libya did. But try to do that now in a conglomerate of countries who have a military might equal or greater to ours when combined together.
What do you think if Trump won? What do you think he would try to do? I don't feel like he would try to purposely lose the dollar.
Well, we would certainly hope not. I think he would try to rectify things
Yeah.
as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
But, I think that you reach a point where I guess you cross a line where it's very difficult to come back from. Now,
Yeah.
by all measurements, it seems like he was well liked by the Saudis. He flew into Saudi Arabia and had that they gave him a greeting that they reserved for only the highest of dignitaries and kings or whatnot. You don't see it very often, and he had a good relationship by all measurements with Putin, with obviously with North Korea. I don't know how his relationship was with Xi Jinping. I mean, they did have tariffs going on with China. They were tough with them. but we were respected more than anything.
Right.
And I think on the world stage, we've lost a
Right.
good deal of
Oh
respect and
yeah.
certainly much of the good graces that our
I
foreign
can't.
creditors have extended us for the better part of 50 years. So he would be a whole hell of a lot better than the administration we have right now. My only
Yeah.
fear is that the damage being done by this administration, and certainly they have another
Be
10 months
replaced.
to really screw the pooch. I
Yeah.
just wonder, are we able to come back from such a place?
Yeah.
But let's hope, God forbid, that it doesn't happen,
Yeah.
that Trump or someone else is able to come in and rectify the ills of the current, which will then hopefully be the previous administration.